It's time to get down to business on TK Business Live, brought to you by the members of the Topeka Independent Business Association. Now, let's join Tara Dimmick, owner and publisher of TK Business Magazine, as we take a look into the business world of Topeka, Kansas.
Hi, and welcome to TK Business Live. I'm Tara Dimmick, and it is great to be with you this Sunday. Just a quick shout out to our sponsor, the Topeka Independent Business Association. You can learn more about them at topekatiba.org. So my guest today is Julie Swift, and Julie is with Topeka Periodontics, and I'm looking forward to talking with her. But first, I wanted to share a little bit about the newly released TK Business Magazine. You can find TK Business Magazine online at tkmagazine.com, or you can pick it up on stands or in lots of locations throughout the community, as well as Dillon's, Hy-Vee, and Westridge Mall if you want to pick up a print copy of the issue. This issue is packed full of just some really incredible stuff. We have experts including William Batetta with Schindel Lawn and Landscape, Pamela Han with Kansas Works. We've got great articles in there, a fun one on the fun places that you can go in Topeka, some fun businesses like Conundrum, which is the escape room company where you can it's basically an adventure that you and your family or you and some friends can go and do and have to try to escape a room. I was talking to my editor-in-chief, Lisa Lowen, and she was telling me that she does this all over the country, and it started in New York City, that she started doing these escape rooms, and how cool she thinks it is. And she's, said that to me, which I think is true, that we have one of these in Topeka. So you can go try out Conundrum and learn more about them in TK Business Magazine. It also has some information about Trampo Laser Rockball Park, as well as Dandelion, some other cool businesses they offer fun, right? That's what they sell. They sell fun. We have a great article on Cody Foster and all the things that he's up to, whether it's downtown or Advisors Excel. There's a lot of things that he's into, and the article really shares some of that with you. We have Last Word by Gary Starr, who is the owner of Gary's Berries, and a little bit more about what Gary's Berries is and what you can do out there. And man, what else should I tell you about? It's one of the most packed full issues. We went to perfect binding. We're really excited about that. I know lots of people are like, who cares? But it's really important to us. It's been an exciting change. And we've also increased the size of the magazine because there's so many great articles to share. There's a really good piece in there by Paul Bryan that's about immigration. And it's just this really cool economic article, or the economics of immigration and what its actual effect is and the research behind it and the data behind it. And I think you'll really enjoy it. So you need to go check that one out. But pick up your issue. Again, it's at tkmagazine.com, or you can go and pick it up at any local business or at Dillon's, Hy-Vee, or Westridge Malls. I hope you enjoy it.
My name is Ken Daniel, and the name of my company is Midway Wholesale.
What is TIBA? TIBA is advice and support. TIBA is information and education. TIBA is a voice for small business.
It's amazing the changes that we've gotten made in state law to the point where we had a list at one time and it's just about finished.
The Topeka Independent Business Association is strong because of its members. Become a member today by visiting topekatiba.org.
I have Julie Swift joining me. She is the owner and also a periodontist at Topeka Periodontics. Welcome, Julie.
Thanks, Tara, for having me.
Well, so first of all, the question, what is periodontics?
So periodontics is the specialty that most people don't really know so much about in dentistry, where we worry most about the surrounding structures of teeth. So gum, jawbone, the ligaments that help your teeth hold them in place and move them around. So we are concerned if you have gum loss, bone loss, if you're going to lose a tooth for some reason, we can do replacements. But we're just in the business of trying to keep teeth if at all possible. But we don't do decay. We don't do crowns. I don't do straightening. I don't do root canals. So we're the one that kind of is under the radar for the most part.
So one of the things that you mentioned before we got on the air was that sometimes people think of it as like where you go to when you haven't been good.
Right.
But that's not necessarily the case. So talk a little bit about that.
Okay, sure. So we even, one of the things we did when I sort of took over the practice, and we can talk more about that a little bit, but was kind of get our image out there as to be, I'm a normal person, I'm a nice person, because that's how we treat people when they come in. We're not there to judge what happened before or after, whether it is something that's from neglect or, a period of time where they had trouble getting in to see the dentist. That's not what we're there for. But we also see a lot of people for cosmetic things, whether they have a gummy smile. So think of the actresses, or go see a movie and see someone who's showing more gum than teeth, and I could fix them up. There are several people I'd like to do that for, but
you pick them out as you watch.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't. That's a question friends ask a lot. Like, oh my God, I don't want to smile around you, and I'm like, I don't really look at that stuff like on friends, but on people on TV, I do. So beware, people on TV. I'm glad we're on the radio right now, because you guys would be totally making fun of me. So anyway, but we do a lot of that type of thing. Even so, gum recession, which is one of the most, I'd say the three big things that we do other than rebuilding bone, would be fixing gum recession. So if the gum has sort of pulled away from the tooth and making the tooth look longer, a lot of times people think that's just a cosmetic procedure, but actually that's restoring, kind of like a scar or repair, so that they could keep the tooth longer. But that can have very cosmetic results too. It can make it look a lot better, feel a lot better. The gummy smile, that's purely aesthetic. So a lot of times those folks, I had it done myself, because I thought my teeth were too short. And they were. I don't have veneers or anything like that. The gum was just kind of stuck further on the tooth than it was supposed to. So we see those kind of people a lot of times right after braces or orthodontics, to kind of enhance their smile. Well, a lot of times kids, even during orthodontic therapy, kids will have to come in, and if they have an impacted tooth or something, we might have to uncover that. So it may just be impacted in the gum or the bone. And so unlike wisdom teeth, where you can go in and take those out and not worry about what's happening in that place in the future, when it's a front tooth that's stuck in the mouth, we need to finesse that out a little bit more and maintain the surrounding structure so that you can keep the teeth long term.
So recently I saw you post on Facebook, and it was, I'm not going to go there yet. I'm going to go to, she's thinking I'm going to talk about flossing. I'm going to get there. So actually you did an entire person's, a new set of teeth for them.
Right.
And it wasn't dentures. So talk about the work that you do to replace an entire set of teeth.
Sure. So this is a patient. He had been previously a patient of ours, had done a few procedures trying to maintain some bone, and that was back when he was a heavy smoker, and wasn't as consistent with his home care. He's a business owner, so as you and I both know, it's hard to make time for yourself.
Yeah.
That's usually one of the last things that happens, and so that sort of fell by the wayside. But he quit smoking, and he got healthier, didn't like his teeth, and he was starting to have abscesses and pain off and on, and teeth that were moving on him. So they weren't functioning well for him. They certainly weren't cosmetically attractive or anything like that. So he and I kind of came up with a plan. So I told you how we've sort of evolved from a practice that wasn't really part of that solution necessarily. We weren't the ones that kind of talked about that. We let that be more something they discuss with their general dentist. But we've sort of started having that conversation since we're the ones who might be proactive in helping that. So for this gentleman, we ended up taking out all the remaining teeth he had on the upper. We had taken one out about 2 weeks earlier because he was in pain. So we took out all the teeth on the upper the same day. That was about 10 teeth. We put in 5 dental implants. So those are basically titanium screws and bone, which sounds scary, but they've been doing it in knees and hips and everywhere else for a long time. Those grow, the bone grows 2 of them, and they're there permanently. And then, so what I thought when we were planning this case was that he was going to have to wear a denture temporarily until the bone grew to that. But in reality, that wasn't the case. We had a lab person in, and we were able to put that in screw retained the day of the procedure. So he left. So some of the companies call it with teeth in a day. In Kansas City and some of the bigger markets where they have a little bit more of the corporate influence coming in, they refer to it as teeth in a day, or all on 4 is sort of one of the implant companies. Our implant company calls it Pro Arch, but basically it's getting them something fixed, meaning it's not coming in and out of the mouth. It's not moving when they're talking. They can chew. They still have to do soft foods for a while, but then ultimately what happens is we replace that with a milled bar and fake teeth on that. And the results are outstanding. I have a picture. I know you guys can't see it to brag, but our patient is so happy. He was there literally all day with us last Wednesday. And he said he was even getting kind of bored. So, I mean, pain-wise, I had to laugh because I was like, oh, that's perfect. I mean, pain-wise, it was minimal. He wanted to go to the shop and work the next day, and his wife told him no. They told you had to take it easy. So, it's what a dramatic difference to have someone that is excited. And, he was worried because he's got a wedding coming up that he needs to attend. And, now he's going to have the confidence to do all those things.
Yeah, it's amazing what a great smile does for you for confidence.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you've seen people in the community, too, where you're just like, oh, I wish, I wish I could make that better. I mean, it really does change things about people.
It does. Okay, so now we're going to get to flossing. So recently there was this article that came out, and I'm sure there's been other things that come out because it's just like anything else. Everybody wants to dispute these different options, but it was that you really don't need to floss because there was two key points I thought they were kind of trying to make. One was that people don't do it anyway. And yet you're telling them over and over to do it. And there's only like 17% or something, I think was the number that actually floss. And then of those, most of them don't do it correctly. So, are we all now off the hook?
No. So I had to laugh when I saw it. So when this happened, I had someone ask me about it before 8 a.m. Within 2 more hours, another person, then my own husband was posting about it on Facebook because it was in all the major media, from CNN to Fox News to LA Times. It was kind of everywhere. The ADA responded right away. Our AAP president, which is the American Academy of Perio, responded. But basically, so what it really came down to was that there aren't super great studies that prove that flossing is a benefit, or interdental cleaning, I think is the term. So that floss is the one you're most familiar with. There are also little brushes you can use between teeth, that kind of thing. However, that's a really hard thing to prove. I mean, you can't tell people, okay, I don't want you to floss. Of course, according to them, no one is anyway, but for 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever, and have measurable results and then have them floss and then have blinded studies, that kind of thing. And so perio is one of the specialties that's really big on doing things evidence-based wise. So we don't do things unless it's been tested and proven that there are good results. So, I mean, I get their point, but having seen the clinical manifestations of people not flossing or keeping that area clean, it's a real problem. You can get decay between those teeth. You can certainly have swollen gums that can lead to bone loss and problems down the road. So I don't think you're off the hook. And I would bet that you haven't been taught the proper way to do it, which is another point of the article that it talks about improper interdental cleaning, that kind of thing. I didn't learn how to properly floss until I went to dental school. So I think that's one area we're kind of lacking. And I think hygienists are doing a better job of that now, probably because of their education. They're learning to talk about hygiene and how to do things right, not just assume people know. So I think I told you that we do a lot of continuing ed stuff for our team. And so one of the things we learned just this spring was you don't floss dental implants the same way you floss teeth, because they don't have the kind of ligaments and everything that teeth have. So you really need to kind of floss it crisscross applesauce is the way we say it. You wrap it all the way around the implant and you kind of pull back and forth to kind of clean all the way around the implant rather than just the sides of the teeth. So there's little, small things like that your hygienist would love to tell you about. Where I know I told her before we got on the air that dentists are basically nerds, but I mean, all of us love what we do. You wouldn't do this, right? Nobody would work in the mouth all day long if we didn't love what we do, and interacting with patients and making them happier and healthier.
So let's talk a little bit about the business. So the business, how long have you took over a practice?
I did.
And that is a big challenge in its own right. And then how long has it been?
Okay. So I moved to Topeka in 2004. And at that time I joined Dr. John Stone, who'd been in practice probably 30-ish years, right around there. And he's a Topeka boy. I was, of course, not a Topeka girl. So that was a big challenge right at first, was just kind of trying to feel my way around Topeka, not knowing anyone, because, like you and I talked about again, everyone knows somebody. It's talk about a Kevin Bacon kind of situation in this town. But that, if you get involved in the community, which it took me a couple years to do, I had a baby within the first year of practicing. So I had, a lot going on. I was studying to become a board certified periodontist. So that was a written and oral exam I had to do that first year. There was a lot kind of going on. So I was originally supposed to buy the practice from him after a year, and we put it off another year. And so he was still the owner for the first 2 years, and I worked for him. And then he stayed on and worked for me for 2 years, which was awesome. There have been a lot of transitions lately in the dental community. We had a lot of sort of near retirement age in the past 12 years. So I've been here 12. So in that age frame, but it seems like suddenly there's been a big changeover. And some of those have been like turnkey, where the doctor literally walks out kind of, within a week or two of telling his patients. And some, have stayed like this. And I would say that's hard. You and I talked about this, and I talked about it, for an article in the magazine several years ago, that some of those relationships, it can be like a bad breakup, where you don't talk to each other or anything like that. I will tell you, when we moved into our new space, so that was one of the bigger challenges once I got the practice sold or bought, was to get to a better space with better parking and just a better maintained office space.
Yeah, your office, just to make a mention where it's at, it's right there on Huntoon across from Westboro. It's
right.
a beautiful location.
Yeah. And frankly, I was a little bit nervous about going there just because I wasn't sure it was big enough, because we downsized. So everyone's always surprised by that. But I wanted to be somewhere off the Wanamaker corridor. I didn't want to be down by the hospital anymore because parking was kind of crazy and we were hard to find. I wanted it to be more a small place where you could walk right in the door and be a part of us. So it's worked out well. Patients have loved it. I loved it. We'd used all local, folks to help with the design and all of that. It's worked out really well. But we've been there since 2011 now, which is hard to believe.
So Julie, what's been a good thing about the move over to this new location?
Okay. Well, I think for one thing, there weren't many people still down around us. So dentistry is kind of a lonely field in the sense that we all sort of work by ourselves for the most part. There are a few exceptions, and in this town, I can think of a big dental group, Gage Dental, that has several dentists in one building. But for the most part, it's one or two people, and so down there, when we were kind of still down by St. Francis in the Mulvane building, there was one other dentist. I think Dr. Betzworth was still there. He has since moved to a different location. But there wasn't anyone around. So if, over Christmas, when our autoclave, which is what sterilizes instruments, broke down, we couldn't get a part for, 3 or 4 days. In our new location, Frank Johnson is right there at the corner with us, and he let us walk over instruments, clean them, bring them back. So they're right there. Lots of other ones are there. It's simpler. It's easier. We got to design it more like a home, or, it didn't look sterile like a hospital building, that kind of thing. I would say the negative of it has been just that I feel like we might have outgrown our space already. So yes, I purposely downsized, but now I'm just like, oh, I wish I had a little bit more room with, these bigger implant cases, or we do a lot of study clubs for hygienists and even some of the dentists in town. And so you know as well as I that finding meeting space in Topeka is tough. So if anyone wants to open a meeting space, feel free to do so. But
I'll share with you a few that I've now learned about. So.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's so we're there, but we're kind of at the edge of, and so part of what we do go out to Manhattan as well. So Topeka Periodontics goes to Manhattan, but we're still at Topeka Periodontics.
Okay.
And we don't do any kind of procedures over there, meaning I don't do any surgery. We do exams, post-ops. We try and just save them some of the drive time, and we do a lot more. It's a condensed morning. We see a lot of patients in a morning on Friday. So, been looking at trying to decide, okay, do we want to expand a little bit more there? Because we see a lot of those people now and spend part of my time there. And if so, how's that going to work? Because a lot of people don't know this, that we have regular hygiene or regular kind of people that are coming in for regular scheduled cleaning, maintenance type appointments. And I don't have to be there for all of those, which allows me some pretty good flexibility. But I do need to see them at least once a year for an exam. And my hygienist can't do any kind of numbing unless I'm in the office. Some of those kind of restrictions. So, and then, where would I work in Manhattan? What kind of space? And because I wouldn't want to be there full time. So I'd say we're at a little bit of growing pains, but I mean, it's a good problem to have, especially considering the economy hasn't been the greatest.
Right. It sounds like you're growing whether the economy is or not. So
right.
That's a great place to be.
Right.
Okay. So you're also, so all this stuff that we just talked about, all the business stuff, and then you're also incredibly involved. You weren't you in the first group of the 20 under 40?
Yes.
You were the very first group of the Boy Scouts, Jayhawk area Boy Scouts, 20 under 40, which we have been a part of as TK Business Magazine. She was in the first group that was selected. And then you're a part of the Topeka Community Foundation. You're part of the library, the Topeka Shawnee County Library Foundation. Tell me a little bit about some of the work you're doing and why you do it.
Okay. So, I mean, this has gone on since I was young. I've always been involved with whether it's sports, activities, that kind of thing. Not like kids are today, I don't think. I played outside as much as I could and just ran around the neighborhood. But again, pretty social from that aspect. And I can remember going to college one time, my mom said to her, remember, you're not going to feel at home until you make it your home, wherever that may be. In other words, you've got to meet people. You've got to go to church. You've got to get involved and start to know people. And that takes time. So they just moved up here. We've convinced them to retire in Topeka, and that's been great. But they're going through that right now, too. So that was part of what I had to learn to do. So I also got a divorce not long after moving here, probably about 5 years in. So I kind of had to redefine myself with that moment too, and figure out, okay, well, what is me and mine, and what is my thing, and what are my friends, and what are the things I care about, want to spend some time with. So, like you mentioned, I'm on the 2 boards right now, the Community Foundation, which I strongly believe in, and also the library. I'm actually on the library board, not the foundation board. And what a fun time to be on both of those, because big changes for both of them. The library just was the library of the year of over 500 in the country that could have been,
awesome
up there. So I think people are like, yeah, whatever. I'm like, it's a really
awesome.
big deal. It's very
awesome.
cool. And it's, we're a model right now. We're a model for a lot of places, and that's fun and exciting to see. And Marcia Pope over at the foundation, she and I were talking just the other day about how there's so much energy in Topeka right now with people kind of working together, and we've got downtown and just, I don't know, it's a fun time to be here, and it's a fun community to be involved with. Again, it kind of goes back to that everyone sort of knows everybody thing, but it's, you do feel more at home if you run into people at the grocery store, or you're at different events, and you see kind of the same people over. You see the movers and shakers, and I like to be a part of that. So
that's great. Well, I appreciate everything you're doing. It's been incredible, and it's been a fun, however many years it's been that we've got to hang out together, and the work you're doing is phenomenal. And I get to enjoy being a part of the Topeka Community Foundation board with Julie, and it's nice to be with another firecracker. So
thank you. It doesn't always feel that welcome sometimes. I think I overstep bounds sometimes, but anyone that knows me, and this is how I am with patients in my practice, I will tell it how it is. If there's something that I'm not sure is going to be the best fit for you or for your teeth or your mouth, then I'm going to let you know. I'm not going to just do something to do it.
So, okay, one more thing. How does somebody get more information about you, or if they're interested in maybe some of the cosmetic part, they haven't necessarily been referred,
Sure.
What do they do?
Okay, well, so first, I'm glad you brought that up, because you don't have to be referred. You can be a self-referral. So unlike the medical community, where all of that is very heavily controlled by insurance and having to have a specific referral to a specific dentist, it's not that way. So that's changing kind of our business model to a certain extent, too. So what you would need to do is basically go to our webpage, which is Topeka Perio, PERIO.com, or Google Julie Swift. Do any of those things to find our webpage and or our phone number. Our webpage has a good bit of information. It has practice location. It has brief descriptions about kind of the things that we offer. But you would basically call to get set up for an examination, and whether that's we're looking at everything, gum, teeth, bone-wise, or whether you just have a particular concern, and you would just get scheduled in for us to check it out. And there's an exam fee for that. So we see you, we do the consultation. If there is recommended treatment, we go over what that means. How much time off work, would you expect swelling or not swelling, what to eat, what not to eat, all of those kind of things.
Well, even the leasing options that you mentioned before, with
right.
That's a huge opportunity to say, I can do this. It's just going to pay for it over time.
Right. So, that was always the concern. And that was part of why we didn't talk about some of those things. It was like, well, we're in the Midwest. No one's going to spend $25,000 to, replace all the teeth. Well, they will. And you can't. That was one of the things they did try to teach us. We got just a smidge of business in dental school. It was much more how to take care of people's teeth and and health, but they just said you can't judge people. It's just you can't judge them by their pocketbook or by the, what they're wearing or whatnot. They may have cash that they're ready to hand over to you, and it's all about priorities and what they want to spend their money on. So, there are people that want it, and they may not even have a whole lot, but there are different. So Care Credit is one of the ones that you hear a lot about, where you can go to the vet or the doctor, the dentist. So that one's good up to a certain extent, but there are also now bigger lenders that can do it for longer periods of time. So it'd be like making, a car payment or buying your furniture over,
But you're doing something that's for yourself.
Right.
That's really important to the whole confidence and presentation of how you are.
Right. Oh, and eating and talking and everything else that are kind of vital functions. So absolutely.
Well, great. Well, go check it out. Go to topekaperio.com and learn more about it, or give them a call and get a chance to go and visit with them and see if something's good for you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Julie. That was Julie Swift with Topeka Periodontics. She's the owner there as well as the periodontist, and it was great to talk with her about all the things that she's got going on in the office as well as outside the office. Thanks again to our sponsor, the Topeka Independent Business Association. Check them out, topekatiba.org. And make sure you go check out the new magazine, the TK Business Magazine's fall issue. It's on stands and online. Go check it out at tkmagazine.com or go pick it up at any of the local businesses at our rack locations, Westridge Mall, Dillon's, Hy-Vee, and enjoy learning more about what's going on in Topeka businesses and hopefully knowing the heart that goes behind all these great businesses in our community. Thanks so much and have a wonderful week.
Thanks for joining Tara and her guests on TK Business Live. Join us again next Sunday at 11:30 to hear more from our community business leaders, entrepreneurs, and people making a difference in the landscape of how business is progressively moving forward in Topeka. TK Business Live is brought to you by the members of the Topeka Independent Business Association.